Hi guys, and welcome to my review of A Black Phone 2. Before we start, just a little disclaimer that we'll be talking about specific plot points here, so there will be spoilers. So my advice would be, if you haven't seen Black Phone 2 yet and you're still planning on seeing it, then I would advise to kind of go away from this and watch that, and then obviously come back to this review, because as I said, I will be talking about specific plot points and spoilers. So yeah, this is kind of more of an address to those of us who have seen the movie, and just want to kind of talk about it, and for me to kind of like just relay what my kind of thoughts were. To provide you with some context. I had when I had seen the original Black Phone in cinemas, really enjoyed it. Really was kind of the horror movie that was kind of like right up my street, in the sense that it was a very self-contained story. It was obviously a very effective story, because I think when you have create a villain like a grabber, and you're kind of creating this horror where children are kind of a target of that horror, I think that just kind of like elevates it. I think that just obviously hits differently. So I think all of that, and the fact that you had this kid Finn being captive for a lot of it, just gave it a real self-contained and claustrophobic feel, which I also think can be utilised really effectively. So I really enjoyed the first Black Phone. But for that reason, I was a little bit apprehensive about this second film, for a lot of the reasons I had already said about me liking the first one. That the first one was a very self-contained story. It seemed to kind of be a very one and done effective thing. It seemed to wrap everything up. And so I wasn't really kind of sure on how they could make a second one. And when the trailers came out, the trailers weren't really doing a lot for me. I wasn't really that blown away with them. I kind of and I'm happy to say that I did enjoy it significantly more than I was expecting to, with that in mind. So this sequel picks up several years after the events of the first one. It shifts focus a little bit more to the sister Gwen, who is still having her dreams, which she believes are have a kind of a supernatural connection. Her dreams are of these children that have died at this winter lake. She's seeing visions of her mother, who she believes has connections to this lake as well. So basically, her and her brother Finn, from the first movie, once again wind up at this winter camp, to kind of like solve this mystery, and they obviously find themselves face to face with Ethan Hawke's a grabber once more, and I'm happy to say that that at least this sequel didn't go down a very real kind of lazy no-brainer, where we kind of find out that the grabber didn't actually die in the end of the first one, and he's just kind of like returned. That was kind of what I was kind of fearing, that it was going to go with this. Unfortunately, it didn't go in that route. And the creative decision they make to bring a grabber back is one I feel kind of conflicted on. So basically, we basically have this idea where it essentially kind of turns a grabber into this Freddy Krueger type character, where he is basically kind of like haunting the dreams. We have I believe the director said that Dream Warriors was one of his favorite movies, and that's definitely felt, because there are definite like Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street vibes here. This is kind of feels like, and it feels like it very much wears those influences very much on its sleeve. That's kind of the direction they go. There's some really nice like artistic and stylistic choices that I like about this. I did like the winter camp setting. There's some really nice stylistic choices where there's these little flash scenes of like that are really kind of grainy 8mm kind of things. Kind of reminded me of a bit of Sinister and some of very stylistic choices, which incidentally is another horror with Ethan Hawke. So it did kind of give me those kind of vibes. So all of those I really enjoyed. I think the cast does a really good job here. I think everyone's on form. Like I said, because of the concept that they have here, it shifts the focus a bit more, again, away from Finn and onto his sister Gwen, which I really like. I think she carries the film really quite well. I feel like it, and yeah, I mean, the basic supernatural concept here, I feel like a little bit mixed on. I mean, in the first film, I felt like it was maybe the supernatural elements were like a little bit excessive, where we had this supernatural connection obviously with the black phone itself, but then we had this supernatural connection with her sister and her dreams and stuff like that. Here I think it serves the story a little bit better. It doesn't seem quite so as excessive. Obviously we've got this, we're kind of moving, there's no, this the sequel doesn't really have the confines of the first film. See, it takes it kind of like outside into this open world. So there's a big, much grander canvas to kind of paint on. So it feels a lot bigger, but yet at the same time, because the Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger inspirations are so kind of overt on this, it feels a little bit derivative as well. It does feel a little bit kind of dialing down a little bit. As the film progresses, we find there's kind of ties to this winter camp and the origins of the grabber, or at least what his first victims were, and all of this kind of ties together. And I was fine with her, but I do feel like when you could put a bit too much connective tissue here and try to kind of like tie things up and explain things that people after the first one weren't really asking anyway, then you kind of a bit sort of dial down a little bit, and it makes it a little bit more smaller scale. The other thing I was kind of apprehensive about was, like I said, because these protagonists that we're following of Gwen and Finn are older now. So I was kind of like I said, I think part of the thing that makes the first Black Phone so effective is the fact that, like I said, you have this horror where the children are very much kind of the forefront of that, and they are very much in the middle of that. And I think when you are kind of forced just to kind of like watch all of that unfold, I think it just hits differently, you know. I think it just kind of like elevates it a lot more, and it doesn't quite, and it's not to say that if you put cheese horrors against against grown-ups, that scariness kind of goes away. It doesn't, but it doesn't quite hit the same. It doesn't feel as effective. And I mean, with that in mind, I do think that it does try. It's realistically, it's best to kind of try and keep to kind of like maintain that element where there's still kind of children involved and then being kind of the victims or being at the tail end of this. But yeah. But again, I just feel like it was another aspect that it kind of dials down from the first movie, and also I just kind of like I said, I really enjoyed some of the stylistic choices here, but yeah, just everything kind of felt a little bit more dialed down. I will say that you don't tend to see as much of a grabber as maybe the trailers and all the promotions would suggest as well. He is very much kind of pushed to kind of the latter half of the movie. To a point, I kind of understand that, but it does feel a little bit, you know, when we're talking about all those Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street inspirations, it's not, it kind of very much takes its influence out there, but whereas with the Nightmare on Elm Street films, you know, Freddy Krueger is still very much kind of at the forefront of all of those movies. Here it's not. The dream sequences and the fact that those are kind of the confines of his world, it kind of inhibits how much screen time he gets here as well. So that wasn't another thing that I was necessarily particularly keen on. But again, that feels like a bit of a double-edged sword though, because I think for all the times that the grabber is away off screen, I think that the entire cast and everything, you know, do the best with what they've got. They carry it. You know, the interactions and everything is it carries it quite well, you know, so that it doesn't affect the pacing too much. It feels very so it feels like a very quite difficult film to really explain and really kind of like review, because it feels so kind of polarizing. You know, I'm saying a lot of these things and it can feel like I'm kind of being a negative, but that's not really how I kind of want to be on this, because I'm not negative about this sequel. Like I said, I did enjoy it significantly more, but I do feel like when you have a sequel like this, it is such more of a departure from what the first one was, that it ends up kind of just sort of dialing down. So it's like, it's not what this sequel is doing is bad, but it's just that the first one was doing all this other stuff, and I just appreciated that a bit more. I mean, you know, this is a very subjective thing though, because I do feel like there's others that will just enjoy that more grander scale stuff. And therefore I think you could ultimately end up being in the camp that actually enjoys it significantly more than maybe you enjoyed the first one for those reasons. And I've heard some people already say that they enjoyed this one more than the first one. I've also come across people who have also kind of been very much in the same camp as me, where they're kind of like, I just appreciated what the first one did more. So it just didn't feel particularly necessary. It all just felt a little bit excessive, and it just kind of so yeah, like I said, and that's not to say that this sequel is bad in any way, because I don't think that. I think if this is a sequel I certainly would kind of like rewatch easily. But yeah, like I said, just for my personal taste, I just preferred what the first one did more. So yeah, that pretty much kind of like wraps it up. So yeah, like I said, very polarizing movie. So I'll be very interested to hear what you guys think. So let me know down in the comment section about what your thoughts were. Like I said, if you enjoyed this review and you want to see more, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care of yourselves.